Okay, let's start. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar about Azure Security Center. Just to give you a brief, this webinar is about talking about Azure Security Center not only from feature set perspective, but as I always like to do in all my videos, I'm trying to introduce the problem and then project that problem to a security need from an overall security perspective, because I expect that you guys are security professionals, and then trying to describe the perfect tool, and then how Azure Security Center fits in the characteristic of this tool, and what are the features of Azure Security Center, how it helps you to automate a lot of things that your team might not be able to achieve in the same way. This is also an era of cloud security and security as a service. So as we delve into the details of Azure Security Center, I just want you to keep in mind that this product is offering from Microsoft to protect devices and workloads in Azure, but also for your on-premises servers and even on other clouds. So although it's called Azure Security Center, the breadth of that solution is big. From here, I want to thank you for joining and quickly introducing myself. For those who don't know me, I am Ammar Hassain. So I'm a Microsoft MVP in Office 365 and in Azure Data Center and Cloud Management. I also author courses for Microsoft when it comes to security products in a platform called the Pluralsight. So if you know Pluralsight, you can go there and search for my name. You can see a couple of resources, including a dedicated resource about Azure Security Center. So this is a huge thing. You can go there, register for free for 1 month, and get a full course about Azure Security Center, from planning, from deployment, from attack simulation. There's a lot of information that you can get, and this will help you be certified for the Azure AZ500 certification, which is Azure Security Engineer. I'm also a blogger, a technical blogger. So most of the things that you will see here, you will see a lot of details about those things in my blog, in the Microsoft 365 security platform. From Microsoft Defender ATP to Azure ATP to Office 365 ATP to Cloud App Security. So if you are a Microsoft geek and you are a security professional and you are looking about content that is beyond the marketing and the level 1 thing that you are seeing in the internet, go to my blog and let me know what do you think. You can also send me feedback on Twitter. So this is my Twitter handle. Finally, I just want to make sure that I'm heavily certified in cybersecurity and in Azure and Microsoft 365 security. So, and I hope in this course and in this webinar, I can add value to you. Please shoot your question in the QA and let me know what do you think. Again, as promised, I want to talk about the problem, and from here, I want to talk about the cloud security challenges. Let me quickly try to adjust my, okay. So the cloud comes with a lot of security challenges, and we all know how quickly you can build a complete environment in Azure just by running an Azure template. Azure template is a way to quickly deploy workloads in a code. So a DevOps engineer can run a code and a complete data center is built. So the question that you should ask yourself is, how can you ensure that these new resources are protected and monitored from the moment they are created? In the back days, you deploy a server, it's a physical server, you know it, you see it, you touch it, you secure it. With infrastructure as a code, the high rate of changes in the cloud is a challenge. And also for those who are good in cloud computing, we know that the lifespan of servers can be less than 1 hour, especially in the case of scale sets, where you can increase the number of servers as the workload increase, and then decrease the number of servers as the load decreases. So with that expansion, how can you make sure that anything that gets instantiated in 1 hour is secure from day one? There is no way a manual security engineer can do this work. And also in large organization, and I'm talking from practical experience looking at customers nowadays, big banks. The problem that they have dispersed cloud adoption strategy. So you have some departments that are adopting the cloud faster than other departments. And they end up spinning a couple of applications in the cloud without even the security team knowing. We're seeing customer onboarding partners to deploy a complete third-party application in the cloud. And the security team, guess what? They are not involved. And this creates that blind spot in the security. And there is a need for something that we will keep talking about called visibility and control in cloud resources. So with that, I want to move to something that I believe we all know about, which is the shared responsibility model. In the cloud, you are responsible as much as the cloud provider for the security. So things like incident response is something that you need to own and plan. Incident response in Azure is not Microsoft responsibility. People are moving to the cloud, for their further speed and agility, but also we want to make sure that changing services and make them up with our security standard is very important. We need to make sure that we are aware of compliance in the cloud. So we talked about this, we talked about visibility and control, and I want you to remember something. When we talk about visibility and control, we mean that we make sure that any resource that gets deployed in the cloud in this agile environment is secure. We discover it and we secure it from day one. Again, there is no way a manual work can do that for us. We are also talking about sophisticated attacks, right? Workloads are now deployed in the cloud. Your security team is educated about securing resources like virtual machines, but storage account is different abstraction than how we deal with SAN storage. So there are an education phase for your security team to understand the best practices on how to configure new cloud services in the cloud. How can you make sure that SQL as a service is secure in the cloud? This requires the extra level of understanding how those cloud resources are provisioned and configured, and what are the options that are built in on those platforms to secure them. So this is the gap between the old security team who are just, doing an audit on data centers, physical data centers, and then moving to the cloud. So security skills are in short and supply. And finally, my favorite, compliance. It's two-way things. We are seeing a lot of people saying, do you know what? We will go to the cloud. It's compliance. It's Microsoft responsibility. X, that's wrong. We are seeing, on the other hand, that people don't want to move to the cloud at all because it's not compliance. X, that's wrong. So compliance, it's a huge step. Now that we know the challenges, we know the problem, what we are trying to achieve, we are trying to go to a security as a service model that automates a lot of things, and it gives us a lot of things. One of them is discovery and visibility. So let's try to define what is Azure Security Center. Azure Security Center is a unified infrastructure security management system, and the goal of this system is to help you increase your security posture of your data centers. Remember, not only Azure, and then provide advanced threat protection across your hybrid workloads in the cloud, on other clouds, in Azure, on your data center. So that's the definition of Azure Security Center. And the way that I want you to think about this platform is from the lens of four things, right? I want to start by discovery and visibility. When I deploy resource, I need a service to tell me, hey, you have a new resource that is provisioned, and by the way, it does not comply with your security policies. Perhaps a partner that you onboarded is deploying a new subscription that you don't know where. So this is the important about discovery and visibility. Second thing is, in the security world, we call them prevention controls. And prevention controls is all about making sure that your workloads are secure and protected before bad things happen. So we'll talk about hardening and security hygiene. Then if bad things happens, we go to incident management, how I can detect when bad things happens and how can I respond with a remediation and automation and runbooks. And this is these are the four features of Azure Security Center. Now, a lot of you are very fan of Gartner. Gartner is there. We use Gartner to understand the landscape of what's happening, the best security products in the market. And whenever I talk about or try to understand a security product, I try to go to Gartner and understand how it fits with Gartner classification. So Gartner make it easy for us. Gartner came up with 3 different security tools for the cloud. They announced it in a white paper, the security tool classification for the cloud. First of all, we have CASB, which is Cloud Access Security Brokers. This is mainly related to SaaS application. And in the context of this presentation, we are not going to talk about this. But the 2 remaining things are in a high relevant in this topic. And one of them is called the Cloud Workload Protection Platform. Guys, this phrase is very important. Just go and Google it. It is CWPP. It's a concept that means that we will go in this in the next slide, but it's about protecting the workload in themselves. So if you have a VM, how I can make sure that the VM is protected. And the other thing is the cloud security posture management, how I can proactively go and look at 1000 feet view of all my resources and try to make sense of the score of my security, if that makes sense. And those are the 3 categories for security tools in the market. Anything, any security tool in the cloud, you can classify it using this classification model. And we will go how Azure Security Center fits there. Azure Security Center fits in the last 2, the Cloud Security Posture Management and the Cloud Workload Protection Platform. If we go to the Cloud Workload Protection Platform, we are talking here about endpoint protection. Of course, you deploy the VM in the cloud and you want to make sure that the VM has endpoint protection, system monitoring, application control, integrity monitoring. Those are big and famous security concepts. So what we are trying to do with these measures is to harden the VM or resource itself. And this is where Cloud Workload Protection Platform fits in the picture. The second thing is about, again, stepping back and looking about our security estate and trying to make sense about our score. How are we compliant? Is there risk, operation monitoring, threat protection? And we will delve in the details when we go to the demo, how cloud security posture management and the security hygiene works in Azure Security Center. So I want you to think when you come to Azure Security Center and someone talk about CSPP or Cloud Security Workload Management, you relate to those concepts. Let's go to the demo, which is my favorite part of any presentation. And we are going to explore Azure Security Center capabilities. To do that, I want to introduce our demo environment. So we have this company, the Contoso famous company. They have an intranet application. So we will have a development environment and production environment. And if you are a good architect, you will separate those into 2 different VNets or 2 different subscription for RBAC separation of duties and concerns. So we have 2 subscriptions for the dev application, for the intranet application. And of course, our hero, we have shared services hub and VNet peering We have the marketing application, we have dev and production, each one with a separate subscription, and shared services in a separate subscription. We also will introduce something called auditing and logging subscription. It's a separate subscription that any requirement for audit will go to a storage account on that subscription, or all our runbooks and workspaces will be provisioned in a separate subscription. And the reason for that is that we want to make sure that only security people have access to audit logs. And if I want to cancel my intranet application, I still need those logs. So if I host them in the subscription for the application, then I cannot delete the subscription. I need to export the logs. So the best way is to deal with logs and monitoring and runbooks and automation in a separate subscription. And finally, we have management groups. So we have created something called Corp Services, where we will host the auditing and shared services subscriptions. And we have the business apps management groups, as you can see here. And we have two child management groups. One management group called production that hosts the production subscription for the two apps. And one is called the dev environment management group that hosts the dev for subscriptions for the two applications. And the reason is that the management groups is a great way to enforce Azure policies or your security policies. And from security perspective, we are not very interested of classification, application classification. We are very interested of development environment or application lifecycle environment. So devs have separate security needs than production environment. And this is a very key architecture concept and security concept that I want you to understand. Of course, if you want to learn about how I came up with this design, best practices about subscription, how many subscriptions do I need? I have a separate blog post that is called CRA or Cloud Reference Architecture Enterprise Structure. Go there, take a screenshot of the screen and enjoy reading about how to design your subscriptions. So let me go quickly to the demo environment. Let me see if I can spin the demo environment. If you are not hearing me or anything, just shout out in the chat. Again, go to the Azure Security Center dashboard. You can reach the Azure Security Center dashboard by simply going here and typing Azure Security Center. And you will land on this view or this dashboard. And this is the overview dashboard for Azure Security Center. Just to make sure that we are in the same context, here we have the subscriptions I told you about. We have two subscriptions, and by subscription I mean Azure subscription for the intranet application, two subscription for the development application, one for logging and monitoring and one for shared services. And as you can see, the problem is that, the company keeps adding subscription and services, and Azure Security Center comes to the rescue by continuously evaluating if there is any subscription that is not covered, and then helping us make sure that every resource that we deploy is secure. What we are going to see in the dashboard, we have different sections in the dashboard. We have policy and compliance, right? First of all, I can filter the view so that, for example, I want to manage the security for a specific subscription. So I can say, for example, what is my security estate for the intranet application? Or I can go and, I want to see everything. So this is very useful if you have too many subscriptions. We have policy and compliance, and we will go through those things. If you are a security guy, you will admire what I'm seeing here. We have resource hygiene. Remember, we talked about security posture, prevention controls. How can I make sure that before I get attacked, I'm complying with best practices? And then this is where the incident response. If I'm attacked, how can I make sure that I can detect the attack and what are the security alerts that are happening? So these three things are what we are going to talk about, mainly security hygiene and threat protection. How we get started, how we onboard Azure Security Center. Let's go to pricing and setting. This should be a familiar dashboard for you. We talked about we have management groups and why we need management groups. And inside management groups, I can see my subscriptions, right? So let's say that I have the intranet dev. I go to the intranet dev subscription and I choose, it was free. So I chose the standard tier for Azure Security Center. So Azure Security Center comes with 2 tiers, free. You only get Azure Security Score and continuous assessment, but you don't get all these features and the standard tier. So my recommendation is that start using the standard tier. And this is how you are charged for the standard tier. You have all these resource types. And for example, per VM, I'm going to be charged $15. Per app services 15, per Azure SQL 15, and you can choose to enable or disable specific things. So for example, if you have only VMs in the subscription, or perhaps you don't want to pay for the app services, you can just enable virtual machines, and Azure Security Center will only evaluate virtual machines on that subscription. What you are going to get as part of the standard, a lot of features. So threat protection, EDR through Microsoft Defender ATP. This is a huge thing because the license that you are going to pay for protecting a virtual machine, which is $15, includes protecting or the license for Microsoft Defender ATP, which is the next generation of machine learning, behavioral analytic, the next generation of endpoint protection. So there is a huge benefit of using Azure Security Center for your VMs. There are a lot of details about enabling Azure Security Center per a subscription, like where do you want to store the audit logs, because Azure Security Center goes to each VM and collect logs. So we need to store those logs somewhere. So there is a default workspace, analytic workspace that get created with automatically when you enable Security Center. You can choose where do you want to send email notification. You can choose the integration with Cloud App and Windows Defender ATP, plus another things. So here we go. I can see that the intranet dev has already the standard tier. But for example, this shared services subscription is using the free tier. So let's fix this. And this is the discovery and visibility phase. Here I'm discovering that the IT team is deploying new services and they created a new subscription. From this view, I can see there is a rogue subscription. So I go there. I want to make sure that whatever they deploy in that subscription is protected. I'm going to enable standard tier, everything is fine, and then boom, anything that IT teams deploying inside that subscription is automatically protected. I don't care what they are deploying. If they're deploying 1 machine, 1,000 machine, 3 SQL databases, 100 app services, by just 1 click, discovery and control. Anything that they deploy will be automatically protected by Azure Security Center. And this is huge. This is the first benefit that you can get. You can rest assured that you don't need to follow up with your IT team about what they are deploying in the cloud if you are using Azure Security Center. Let's go to the coverage tab here. And it is the same as the pricing tier. It shows you that those things, subscriptions are protected. We have partially configured because for the intranet, for example, production, I enabled Azure Security Center, but not for the whole features. Let me fix that. Of course, I'm going to pay more. And then this subscription is not partially covered by Azure Security Center, but it is fully covered. And this is the benefit of enabling. And now in a minute, I will see the subscription appearing here. So this is about Azure Security Center activation, or how are you going to be charged for using Azure Security Center. Let's go to Secure Score. And if you are a Microsoft guy, you know this concept of Secure Score. It is now used in Office 365, in Microsoft 365, in Microsoft Defender ATP, it is now named Configuration Score. So it's a way that gives you a nice visual or indication or reference about your security state by giving you a percentage of the ideal configuration. So for example, I can see I have my subscriptions here. And here I can see that this subscription, the marketing portal dev, those guys who are deploying resources, they perhaps are not using the best recommendation, the best security configuration. There are things that we can do to improve that, but we are in the 37% of that full security state as Azure Security Center understand. I can go and view security recommendation. How can I improve my score? And this will give us more details about that, but we will come to that later. And then you can see the overall. So if you take all this and take the average of that, we will have the overall security score, which is 27% out of all these things. So as a security admin, you can use this score, follow those recommendations, and try to increase your security score. This is a great way to start working on the pre-attached phase or protection or prevention phase of your security hygiene and hardening your resources. Now, another thing that I want to touch on is how Azure Security Center evaluates and come up with security recommendation and give me my score. Does it have a brain? Is it following a magical recipe on how to secure resources? How can I know as a security guy what are the things that Azure Security Center compares against to give me that sense of security score? And perhaps if Azure Security Center is keep reminding me that, you know, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and those 1, 2, 3, 4 does not apply to me because I have a third-party security mitigation. How can I prevent Security Center from keep judging me on those security controls? So to see inside the brain of Azure Security Center's secure score and recommendation, Azure Security Center team decided that instead of inventing the wheel and going and build a new engine to do policy enforcement, they are using the Azure policy. And for those who don't know, Azure Policy is the engine that powers assigning policies inside Azure. So for example, I can go to the intranet dev subscription. I'm in the security policy tab. Sorry, I'm going to the intranet dev, and here I can see the magic. I can see what's happening. What Azure Security Center is doing for that subscription. How does it go and evaluate security there? First of all, there is a default set of rules that Azure Security Center follow to assess your security. And it uses Azure Security Policy, and it created something called ASC, which is Azure Security Center default. So let's look at this security policy. So we can see that the security policy is divided into 4 categories for identity, data, network, and compute, which means that Security Center, when it goes to a subscription, it evaluates the compute and app resources, the network resources, data resources, and identity resources. If we go to the compute and app, you can see, for example, it checks that if there is software updates on your machines, and it will audit that and will tell you that you are missing Windows updates from that machine. For example, it will check if there is an endpoint protection solution on virtual machine or not, and the action is audit if not exist. If we go down, for example, we can see that let me take something interesting. Encryption should be enabled on automation account variables. It will audit that. So if you have an automation account variable, it's not encrypted, Azure Security Center will go and audit that and will tell you, hey, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 to be more secure. But what if and the same applies for the network, right? It will see that if you have network security group for each subnet, if you are having just-in-time or just-in-time network access on VMs, it will look if you have DDoS standard edition enabled or not. The same for data, for secure transfer across storage accounts. So those are very, very, very important security recommendations that even if you don't have the Azure knowledge as a security admin, Azure Security Center helps you by complementing the lack of knowledge by giving you that out of the box recommendation. Very, 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 very strong engine. Now, the beautiful thing is that I can delve in the details of that security policy and edit it. So here I click on the security policy. I'm going to the parameter. For example, let me tell you that Windows Defender Exploit Guard should be enabled on your Windows virtual machines. So the Azure Security Center will audit if not exist, and it will tell you, hey, you don't have Exploit Guard enabled on that VM. Your security score will go down. But what if you are using a third-party security system like Semantic Antivirus, and it has some exploit mitigation things? You don't want Azure Security Center to keep buzzing you and bugging you every day. Hey, you need to enable Windows Defender Exploit Guard, so you can choose to go here and disable this control. So Azure Security Center will understand that it should not check for this specific control because perhaps you have a third-party mitigation. And this is how you can go and evaluate these policies and have more granular control of what Security Center goes and audit your resources on. Microsoft also added a new welcome feature, which is the ability to add another industry and regulatory standards like the lovely NIST controls, like the ISO 27001, PCI, the Azure CIS, which is a very, very important and welcomed addition. So here you can see that I already added the NIST controls. I believe you should add the NIST security controls. And what this means is that Azure Security Center will be more intelligent. It understands the NIST protocol, and now it will judge your subscriptions and resources against those NIST controls. And this is where the magic happens. You can extend that platform to give you more powerful capabilities and more insight. And you can click here and add more standards, and you can onboard what you are required to comply on Azure Security Center to do the heavy lifting for you. So this is how Security Center go and judge you against those recommendations and give you that secure score state. Now, the next step that you can do is follow those recommendations, right? And here, for example, I can see, guess what? Security Center goes and looks at my security policy. I configure there, tune a couple of things, and then it came up with recommendations like enable MFA on anyone that has owner permissions. The unhealthy resources, we have 5 out of 5 subscriptions that they don't have MFA enabled for the owner permission. Like, for example, I have internet facing VMs that are not protected with network security groups. And the RDP port is enabled. There is an RDP brute force attack that can happen. Encryption at rest, for example. 6 of my 6 machines don't have encryption for their disk. And for example, let me take this as an example. Those are the machines that are not healthy. Those are the machines that are healthy. So 6 of them are not healthy. And here you can see more remediation instructions. So this gives you a description of the problem, and this will help you if I click here how to remediate that problem. So it's not just you have a problem, here is how to remediate it. Let's go back and see another things. For example, we talked about MFA. So here, if I click on that, I can see the unhealthy resources, and then I have a step-by-step instruction by Azure Security Center. First, so I need the premium license. I need to create a policy, blah, blah, blah. So this is how not only it gives you the problem, but also how to go on and move and solve this problem. And here you can see the effect of your score. Remember, we have the secure score, 27%. If we go to recommendation, each recommendation that you follow will increase our score by this percentage, and it will give us more points. So you can start with the recommendations with the highest score, as you can see here, and this will help you get secure faster. And that's an awesome feature, giving you the impact of each recommendation. You can also go and look at multiple categories of the recommendation. Perhaps you want to focus on the compute and app recommendations. You can see here the huge list of recommendations. Whoa, I have 6 machines and I'm already, I'm not doing very well. All of those things I need to fix. And with the noise and the agility of the cloud, people forget about security. You need something to shock you, something to give you the real truth. And this is what this platform is trying to do. You can say, for example, that you need to install the monitoring agent on the VM, and there is a quick fix. So quick fix is a new feature in Azure Security Center that can, for example, you can click this machine. This machine is a new, does not have the monitoring agent. And instead of going there and install the monitoring agent with the quick fix feature, one click, I can choose the workspace ID for the monitoring log to go, blah. Azure Security Center will go and remediate that, do the magic in the background to install the monitoring agent. So anything that you can see with quick fix, it is Azure Security Center helping you in that last mile things without worrying how the remediation happens. And you can see there are a lot of things that you can do to increase your security posture. I can even click load more and go down and down and down. I can do that for VMs. I can do that for app services. So app services, I have one app service. I can click on it and it also evaluates my app services. So here it's saying that I'm allowing HTTP instead of HTTPS. And by clicking this quick fix, I'm going, reading the remediation, remediate, select the app service, and then it will go in the background and configure it to use HTTPS. So this is the power of automating the remediation activities. Whether you have containers, VM scale set, they are all part of this assessment, continuous assessment that happens in the background. You don't need to schedule assessment. It happens. The Azure Security Center does not take vacations. They don't work from 9 to 5. This is a continuous security hygiene and security posture assessments. My favorite thing here is the networking. Look at this, okay? I click here and this is very cool, I believe. Let me go and select everything and everything. And remember that I told you I have multiple subscriptions. So for example, in the introduction, in the VNet that is called Intranet Production, I have 3 subnets, the web application and data. This is the best practice design. The same thing I have for the marketing production. I have data, I have app, and I have web. Now, Azure Security Center understands how your VNets and subnets and subscriptions work. It understands where resources are located, what traffic is allowed and blocked between VNets, between subnets, what is the network security group configuration, what is the health of resources across all those VNets, and then give you a visualization of your whole VNet. So I can see this machine. If I click on it, I can contextual menu. Just in time is not enabled on this VM. Please fix this. If I have network security group, I can see the network security group, the inbound and outbound rules here. I can go to a VNet. VNet is healthy. Subnet is healthy. Let's go to this machine. This machine has also a problem that I can choose to fix, and I can zoom in. And if I have network security groups enabled, I can choose to show the allowed and blocked traffic. So I can understand what traffic is allowed or denied. So I don't want, for example, resources in the development subscription to access resources in the production environment. So this view can give you this visibility. And of course, there are a couple of recommendations I have here, like to IP forwarding should be disabled. Adaptive network hardening should be enabled. Management port should be blocked. And this is a quick way to fix these things. Of course, for the VNets, I have visibility on all my VNets and the subnets inside the VNets, and then whether they are healthy or not. We have also a category for IoT and hub, category for data and storage. And this is very huge because now we are assessing SQL as a service. We are assessing storage accounts. For example, I have 2 storage accounts. And here it's telling me that I need to enable secure transfer. Guess what? I click this bottom and everything is fine. I can see also the assessment that was passed. In the recommendation, there is in the identity recommendation, this is where I have, for example, a key vault, and now Security Center is evaluating my key vault, right? And it's telling me that I need to enable diagnostic lock in the key vault. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a key vault guru. So you can go here and click, and then it will get you to the context of enabling that in the resource. So this is security recommendation and security hygiene. To continue in that things, I just want to point you to a couple of resources. Adaptive application control is a way that you define what executables should run on VMs and anything else will not run. This is an app control thing. So instead of choosing what not to trust, you define what is trusted and anything else is not trusted. And to do that, application control allows you to define this. So imagine you have a domain controller. You know for sure that you only need the domain controller binaries to be on that device. So anything else, why should it run? So you can define those settings here, and Azure Security Center will go and configure app control in that Windows machine in behalf of you, abstracting all the complexity of understanding the files of configuring app controls, the based on certificate, based on hash, based on. It will abstract that. You can define it in scale, and Azure Security Center will go and do it across all your workloads. Just-in-time access is a huge thing. If you don't know just-in-time access, means that you open management port on VMs that are exposed to the machine or not exposed to the machine, only when you need that access. So by default, the RDP or SSH ports are disabled. And when you want to access that machine, you request the management port to be open. Just to give you an example, I can see that those machine does not have just-in-time access control. I can enable just-in-time access control. It will give me some recommendation. I'm interested on the RDP traffic. And when I enable this configuration, when I request the RDP to be open, I want it to be open for 2 hours. Okay. And I can save this configuration. And now in the background, just-in-time access is being configured for this marketing dev server. As you can see now, I have it configured. When someone wants to connect to the marketing dev server, you need to request access. When he requests access, the RDP port will be open only for 2 hours. By doing this, I'm increasing my security score in this dashboard, which is here. Okay. So adaptive network hardening and file integrity. I will just mention file integrity very quickly here. So in the file integrity monitoring, you can see that you can monitor file changing. FIM or file integrity monitoring is a very famous security concept. So you want to track changes for files and changes for registry keys. So you can go here and configure that you want those registry keys and those files to be monitored on machines. And as you can see, I have 3 servers, and you can delve on the details of changes in the registry. I'm sure that I configured something that we can see. So those are the Windows files that are monitored by default. Those are the registry keys that are monitored by default, and you can add yours, of course, and enabled file monitoring. Anytime that those registry keys or files are changed, perhaps because of an attack or malicious actor, you get an audit report. And even if the file is changed, you can have an option to restore a previous file, because the file can be uploaded in the back end to a storage account. Now, what happens when there is an attack that happens? We covered a lot of things. We covered the security recommendation, right? We covered the advanced cloud defenses. Let's talk about when bad things happen. And for example, in this machine, we have a malicious file. And this file, guess what? This file has a macro, and this macro launched and a 0-day attack on this machine, as you can see. So let's see how Azure Security Center is defending. We have a section called Security Alert. And remember, as part of the Azure Security Center, you have Microsoft Defender ATP guarding your VMs. And here Microsoft Defender ATP in the background detecting that there is a suspicious PowerShell activity on this machine. And it feeds Azure Security Center on that. So here I can see the related entities. I have one machine. I have 2 files. This is the PowerShell script process, and the attack comes from WinWord. Of course, it's a Word document. Here you can see the login account is master, and the processes that were part of that attack. Now, what this means, is in the background, what happened is that Microsoft Defender ATP is enabled on all machines that you onboarded with Azure Security Center. And Microsoft Defender ATP here, as you can see, is detecting that there is an attack happening. Let me go and see that attack. Microsoft Defender ATP is a very advanced EDR solution, and this is one of the benefits that you can take from using Defender ATP. Here you can see the whole attack happening here. So we have a WinWord document that someone opens. It runs a suspicious PowerShell command, and the command, this is the PowerShell exe, and this is the command. This is the user that ran the command, and here you can delve on the details of the attack. We have a schedule task that was created, and here is the details of the schedule task that get created and related activities. This is a very big topic, which is Defender ATP, but let's go to the incidents, and let's open the incident page just to give you some overview of how this attack happens. Here you can see the power of integration between Microsoft Defender ATP and Azure Security Center. Here are the entities. Here is a document. Here is the PowerShell that was run. Here is the process for OneWord. And if I go to automated investigation, which is, I believe, here, you can see that Microsoft Defender ATP already started an automated investigation, and it discovered that there are one malicious files and we need to do some action. I'm going here and I need, you see I have a backdoor here. I need to approve the action to block that file. So this is security alerting in Azure Security Center. Finally, I want to end by something important, which is security and compliance in Azure Security Center. As you know, we said that we onboarded a lot of security baselines and compliance standards. And here, for example, if I'm looking to Nest or PCI, okay, here I can get the security standards, that the security controls that I need to follow to comply, for example, with PCI. Like, for example, in PCI, I have the requirement to install and maintain firewall configuration to protect cardholder data. So here Security Center is going in real time and evaluating my VMs against those standards and give me recommendation. And for each recommendation, I can click, understand how many machines are complying or not. And this happens in a continuous way. So it's a very, very powerful tool to go and make sure that you comply with, for example, Azure CIS. It gives me a lot of recommendation. I need to make sure that logging for key vault is enabled or not, and we know what this means exactly. So this is in a nutshell what is Azure Security Center. Just to wrap up what I talked about, we talked about the pricing and how you enable it per subscription. When you enable it per subscription, you choose what options or resource type that applies and the cost per resource type. We then talk about the coverage, making sure that your subscription are covered fully with the standard tier of Azure Security Center. Secure Score, it's a 1,000 feet overview of your security posture. To increase your score, you follow security recommendations. And security recommendation, for each one, you get the impact or the potential increase of your security posture. So make sure to follow up the ones that have the biggest potential. And they are, there are many categories of recommendation: compute, networking, data, and identity. We also talked about a couple of advanced features to strengthen your resources. You have security alerting, which is incident response and a complete solution to make sure that any attacks that happens across your security, your workloads is surfacing here, any alerting, and you can go deep here and understand, for example, suspicious activity we have on this machine. You can see that this account has many failed login activity. You can delve down, you can see the status, you can dismiss it, you can see what's happening, you can go view more. It's very advanced engine. In the background, it integrates with Microsoft Defender ATP. And finally, we talked about the regularity and compliance, how to onboard security compliance standards that fits your organization needs. And then Azure Security Center understand those standards, do continuous assessments on all your workloads. And remember the discovery and control. So anything that you onboard to cloud, automatically they will be up. You will have all those security assessments happening for them to make sure that everything that you deploy is secure and also compliant from day one. This is mainly what I want to show you here, and I want to give you some resources that you can carry on with you. And let me start with this one. Currently, me and Ahmed Nabil, my fellow MVP from Egypt, and a lot of wonderful MVPs, we are writing a book about Microsoft 365 security. This is the URL. It's called M365 Security Book. It's coming within 2 weeks. In this book, we are going to delve on the details of all Microsoft 365 security products, including Microsoft Defender ATP. Also, make sure to check my blog, which is blog.ahassign.com, as I continuously add a lot of relevant security things. Recently, I started a series to talk about how to pass security exams. An example is CISP, CISM, M365, MS500, which is Microsoft 365 Security Admin exam, the AZ500 Security Engineer exam, AWS Architect if you want even, and then a lot of security reference architecture, a lot of Microsoft Defender ATP automation, Azure ATP, Azure Bastion. You know, there are a lot of good materials in this blog, so make sure to follow it. And my favorite addition is my YouTube channel, which is a continuation of my effort to deliver high quality security content. So I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. I need your help for that. And you can see a lot of good content about Microsoft security products. For that, I want to see if you have any questions for me. And I want to urge you to communicate with me on my social media channels. Just let me know if you have any questions, any feedback, if you want any resources. I can definitely help you with that.